Welcome back. Consumers set new shopping records throughout the holidays, but as some purchases failed to live up to expectations, merchandise return and reseller logistics company Optoro estimates $135 billion in goods are going to be returned between Thanksgiving and the end of January. That's even causing some retailers to rethink their return policies. Here to discuss is Optoro president and co-founder Adam Vitarello. Adam, thank you for joining us here today. This is a story that I track with interest every year, and every year it gets bigger and bigger. I got to think that because of the huge changes we saw this year, increases in wages and overall inflation levels, that this would be an especially challenging year. What's your view?
Yeah, good morning, Jared. Thanks so much for having me. Happy holidays. Yeah, so we're seeing returns play an increasingly important role in retail. This year, I think, as you mentioned, returns are up over 12%. And it's not just for the retailers themselves. Shoppers, something like 80% of folks have done an online return this year. And they're thinking of it as a critical part of the journey. And so the big story this year that we're seeing, and we're a returns technology company working with big folks like American Eagle and LL Bean, Tucker Nuck, and others, is, hey, what do you do with this fact that everyone's facing increased costs, right? With inflation, retailers on one hand trying to figure out, hey, do I pass along some of those costs back to shoppers, potentially in the form of charging for return shipping and making returns a little bit more difficult. This is a huge driver of kind of bottom line for retailers. On the other hand, shoppers saying, hey, I'm facing increased costs and I'm actually kind of prone to shop around. And if you don't give me a great returns experience, I might shop with your competitor. And that's what we're facing this year.
Adam, it's Julie here. So it certainly feels like from an anecdotal basis that more companies are putting some of the cost of returns back on the customer. Have you found that to be the case? And if so, how is that affecting the whole dynamic? Are people returning things less if they're having to pay for it? Like, how is all of that playing out?
Yeah, it's interesting. We are seeing that dynamic play out. Some notable brands like Zara, H&M, J.Crew have started to charge for mail-in returns, certain types of returns. And certainly it is having the impact of less returns. I think the other big impact, though, it's having, and this is a kind of the $1 million question if you're in the marketing department or if you're running a big brand like this, is, hey, do we kind of save a quick buck, right, and charge and pass this along to customers? And it does, and it can certainly help reduce returns and kind of put some kind of short-term wins to the bottom line. But also, again, majority of customers say that if you do charge for returns, it's something like 70% say that the retailer should, pass it along to them. And one kind of anecdotal piece is, with all the supply chain issues, inventory levels are quite scarce. And so I think a lot of customers are saying, hey, I tried to go to the store, but I couldn't find anything. And so you made me go online and then I bought something, it didn't fit, and now you're charging me. Hey, that's kind of, kicking me when I'm down. And so a lot of customers, again, are kind of fighting back and saying, hey, you can charge and I will return less with you, but then I may then go along and then shop at your competitor and switch, right? Because a lot of folks are leaning into returns, famously Amazon, and who's made this free for essentially all of its products.
Adam, I got to confess, I don't return a lot of online items simply because of the hassle and because I live in Manhattan and it's kind of a big deal sometimes. Nevertheless, people like you and your company, Optoro, making it easier. Is this bringing up the overall level of returns in the system? Does it somehow exacerbate the problem? Just wondering if you have any stats on that.
Yeah, I think by the way, that is a big trend, is just making online returns easier to return. And I think the other side of that coin, though, Jared, is how do you then make it so that retailers don't incur a ton of cost to process that return? Because, if you buy something in a store, or you try something on in a store and you leave it in the dressing room, they don't call it a return, right? They just say, hey, this thing didn't fit, and they restock it. But if you do that same action online, hey, I just kind of want to see if this thing fits, and then I don't do it, then it's a return and it costs money and all that. And so I think the big trend we're seeing is you got to make it easy for consumers. There's this whole kind of packageless return phenomenon. Folks like Amazon, Happy Returns, Optoro's got a solution as well, where you can just take an online return to any third-party location, in our case, Staples, and just drop it off and make it easy for the customer. What's nice about those solutions, too, is it costs a fraction to actually return it because it ships with other items. It's better for the environment. It's not one by one. And so then it allows customers an easy option to return. It allows retailers kind of a cost-effective one. And so we would say that actually by doing that, you're ultimately just kind of growing the pie for everyone. there are more returns, but there's certainly happier customers and retailers that are selling more. And so I think the kind of most forward-thinking retailers faced with this predicament are actually saying, hey, let's lean into customers, realize that if we give them a great experience, they're going to come and shop again with us. And just because they tried it on and didn't like it, those customers oftentimes are actually their most loyal and ones that come back and shop again.
Yeah, we'll see how this dynamic plays out. We'll probably be talking to you again next year at this time, and there'll be another record in returns, though. Optoro co-founder and president Adam Vittorello, good to catch up with you.